I will fight. I will fight for you. I always do until
Welcome to Prevention Project. Listeners, please be advised, episodes may include descriptions of substance misuse, including drugs and alcohol addiction, which could be triggering for individuals in recovery or those who have experienced addiction firsthand. This podcast is intended for mature audiences and may not be suitable for young listeners. Prevention Project is devoted to having those hard conversations that are essential to harm reduction and substance misuse. We will take that deep dive by engaging with experts in addiction and real people with lived experiences. Our goal is to offer listeners crucial information about addiction while providing knowledge and support. We want people to be aware of why harm reduction is essential, along with everyday strategies for staying safe. Join us as we break down the walls of stigma and empower our audience. Prevention Project is a podcast presented by SUPTR, Southwestern Oklahoma Development Authority.
black and blue. I will stay. I will stay with you. We'll make it to.
Welcome to our podcast live from Oklahoma. We want to start by introducing some of our staff. So I will start. My name is Kendra Dilbeck, and I am the Assistant Project Manager for Prevention.
My name is Deshauna Smythe, and I am a Coalition Coordinator for Beckham, Ouachita, and Caddo counties.
Tangela Benton. I'm a Coalition Coordinator for Jackson, Harmon, and Kiowa counties.
Hi, my name's Ashley Hartwell, and I'm a Coalition Coordinator for Woodward, Texas, and Grant County.
Hi, I'm Dina Craig, and I am the Coalition Coordinator for Substance Use Prevention for Blaine, Canadian, Grady, and Kingfisher County.
Side, like lovers do. I'll reach my hands out in the dark and wait for yours to.
Hey, Deshauna, do you want to tell me a little bit about what you're doing in Beckham County?
Well, the Beckham County Drug Prevention Coalition is looking to build their capacity right now. Don't let the name scare you off. We focus on a wide range of topics, including health, mental health, suicide prevention, STI and STD prevention, education, and so much more. We have a new meeting location. We are now meeting on the fourth Monday of every month at Great Plains Regional Medical Center, which is at 1801 West 3rd Street in Elk City, meeting room B. That's at the back of the cafeteria. We meet at 11:30 a.m. and usually it only lasts an hour. If you want to bring your lunch, if you want to grab lunch from the cafeteria at the hospital because their food's really great, by all means, bring that into the room. We just sit around and we talk about what is impacting our communities at the moment and what our communities need the most. Right now, we have some upcoming events we want to make you aware of. We will be at the Beckham County Resource Fair at the Arrowhead Center on July 26th. This event is hosted by the Beckham County Health Department and Western Oklahoma Family Care Center. If you would like a booth, you can contact Liberty at Western Oklahoma Family Care Center. Her number is 580-225-5500. If your family needs school supplies for 6th grade and under, contact the Link Church at 580-821-6678 and get signed up on that list. Do it now because that list is going to fill up fast. You can also find us at the KECO Fishing Derby at Ackley Park in Elk City on July 27th. That's always a big, great event, and we'll have something fun for the kids to do. And also they can fish, and while they're fishing, they can win prizes, even cash prizes. And if you're looking to connect with us, you can find us on Facebook, the Beckham County Drug Prevention Coalition, or on the web at SWOTA.org. That's SWOTA.org. Click the Substance Use Prevention Treatment and Recovery link. Or you can call me directly at 580-562-5039. And we're also located most days when we're not out and about in the communities at 420 Sooner Drive in Burns Flat, Oklahoma. And what Beckham County really is focusing on right now is opioid opioid prevention and marijuana prevention. And we do focus a lot on misuse, on locking up your medications, safely having your medications in your home to prevent any misuse or accidents within your home, and really just those harm reduction items like medication disposal bags and making people aware of where our drop box locations are.
So I have a question for you. Who is able to come and join the coalition?
Absolutely anybody. You don't have to work for a business. You can be a business owner. We'll take a business owner, but you can be a regular community champion that wants to do better for our community. We really need to focus on having drug-free communities, and it always boosts every other aspect of the community. So anybody can join. We also are looking for those who are in nonprofits. We are looking for pastors or those who work for a local church. We want everybody to join. That way we hit all aspects of the community.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing about Beckham County today.
Thanks.
I'll wait for you. I'm not giving up.
Okay, can you tell us, Kendra, a little bit about what a COG is?
Yeah, so a COG is a council of government, and this model is employed all over the state to help build affordable housing, assist with certification of rural fire programs, apply for grants, provide aging services, help with the 911 addressing. We have an ombudsman represented for residents of assisted living facilities and nutrition assistance, just to name a few.
Thank you, Kendra, for sharing what a COG is. Can you share how did SWOTA start working in substance use prevention?
Yeah, I'd love to. So our executive director, Deborah, she was going to all of her national conferences, and she kept learning and hearing how substance use disorder was impacting our local communities, and that spurred her to want to find out more about it and to figure out how she could help serve her communities in addressing this issue.
So SWOTA is really fortunate to be able to work directly with communities, and I'm just wondering, what are you guys seeing? How is substance use affecting our communities?
Well, I know for me, in Grady County, we have people who are unhoused, and I even hate to use that word, because I don't think it really defines these people are homeless. They're not just unhoused. They don't have shelter at all. They don't have a home. And so when someone is experiencing homelessness, oftentimes they will turn to substance use to get rid of the pain, or to forget the fact that they don't have a home. Or maybe their substance use disorder is causing them to be homeless. Maybe they're not able to hold a job. There's no scientific proof that says that drug abuse causes homelessness, but we do know that there is a correlation there for sure.
That's happening, I think, in all of our communities. I think we're seeing that sort of impact in all of it. And what I'm also seeing is job loss. We're here in Oklahoma, where oil field is the oil and gas industry is the bulk of our employment. And so we're seeing a lot of people who are losing that employment, or what am I trying to say? Like, they're just...
Well, I also think of our farming. Our farming industry is very big, and people get injured a lot in those industries. And so not only are they, they get injured, they get, get sent to the doctor, they get prescribed an opioid, they get addicted, and it causes them to lose their job over that. I'm not saying that's every instance, but I think it's a higher rate of that happening just because of the industries that are here in Oklahoma.
And that's what I was getting at in the oil and gas industry. It's not necessarily that their substance use is causing them to lose their job, but the losing their job is causing them to self-medicate with alcohol or with other substances, and so that impacts every aspect, and it gets to a point where they can't get a job due to the substance use. And so that again leads into homelessness. It leads into broken families, which again, it's just a circle of issues.
Yeah, I don't think addiction is like a respecter of persons. So
no,
anyone and everyone could be potentially faced with that. I mean, like like was mentioned, going to the doctor and getting opiates. I mean, you might think that, you wouldn't struggle with addiction, but sometimes that happens. We're seeing it in the most unlikely ways too. I know on the news a lot, we're seeing like teachers getting DWIs in their communities, coming to school drunk, teaching. So I think it really affects we couldn't narrow it down to just one population of people. I think that is kind of the main thing to look at. Is you might not think that it would impact you in any way, but it could.
It really is a broad spectrum of issues when we talk about substance use impacting our communities.
It affects the family dynamics also.
Yeah.
If mom and dad are using, well, it's okay. Mom and dad do it, so it's okay.
Yeah, and that gets passed down to the
Right.
kids.
It gets passed down, exactly.
And then that kid gets, involved in drugs, and then they have a circle of friends, and maybe it gets passed to their friends, and it just kind of keeps going from there. I feel like it just.
And it also affects the way people are able to parent their children.
Right.
And then you have these parents who, one of them is using substances and the other one is trying so hard. I know I ran into that a few years ago. We helped a man whose wife was using, and he stayed by her side. He really supported her through her recovery, and I absolutely love that. And he fought for her recovery. But you don't always see that. A lot of times you'll see the spouse will leave, and broken homes raise children who
Right.
are impacted by that. Their mental health is impacted, and therefore that starts a whole chain of events.
Childhood adverse experiences, isn't that what that's called?
Yep. Adverse childhood experience,
Yeah,
ACEs.
ACEs.
And a lot of times the parents are actually supplying the drugs and alcohol to the children, so that makes it even harder. Because I do think that it begins in the home, and not everybody that's on substances has children, but that is definitely a situation. Kids, that being modeled to children, and then you're talking about possibly developing a dependency problem later on in life, so there's that as well.
I think a portion of the population we haven't really talked about yet is our elderly. Our
Yeah.
elderly are a lot of them have lots of pain, chronic pain, and what is a lot of times what they turn to is they give them prescription opioids to help with that pain, and we know that opioids are very addictive, and so a lot of our elderly, I think that they probably get addicted to that substance, not because they that they didn't ask to become addicted, but
Right.
because of the pain that they're dealing with, it happens. And so I feel like we're also seeing that in our elderly population as well, something that we don't really talk about a whole lot.
Do you think that the outcome of that might look different depending on which environment you're in, like culturally? Like if there's do you think that there's a relation between more substance use depending on which community you live in? Do you think there's a cultural significance there?
I think there's a supply and demand
Yeah.
more than anything.
I think it varies between each community and
Right.
between each culture and what their backgrounds are, whether or not they have a faith background, whether or not, just different varying factors that will either help or harm the person who has the addiction.
But another important thing to point out is, speaking of the elderly, there's a difference between addiction or being addicted and being an addict. So those are two different things. A lot of people don't differentiate, but so for an elderly person who all of a sudden stops using their opioids, their body experiences that withdrawal symptom. For addicts, it's more also mental as well as physical. So they're not comprehending that, I need to slow down or cut back or wean myself off. Their mind is thinking something else. Whereas, like I say, people who don't necessarily want to become addicted, but physiologically.
Are you talking
they
about
do.
the difference between addiction and dependency?
Yeah.
Kind of, sort of,
Yeah.
along those lines.
Right. Especially as you get older, because you have more pains and you might have more health conditions. So And then a lot of times there could be like a memory component to that. Like they forgot that they took their medication, so they take more medication. So I think that that's one of the things also we try to advocate for is lock up your medications. And then we also help provide some of those in our opioid counties.
Absolutely. And we don't want to, we're not advocating for people to go abstinence from their drug of choice, if you will. We want people to be safe. We want to use their medications in a safe way and as prescribed, because we all know that people with chronic pain, having the ability to be mobile can be a life changer. Yeah. And a lot of times that's due to the fact that they have something that manages their pain.
Yep. Right. That's a very good point you bring up.
I think that's really awesome.
Even when I'm down on my last breath, even when they say there's nothing left, so don't give up on, I'm not giving up.
So Tangela, what got you into working in substance prevention?
Well, Deshauna, the reason I do what I do is because I have experienced the devastation of having a loved one who is dealing with an addiction. I was married to my first husband for 20 years, and I watched him slowly become an alcoholic. And the reason I say that is because when we met, he barely drank alcohol at all for years. He became so out of control that I started keeping a journal of his behavior, hoping that it would trigger a response to want to quit or at least slow down on his drinking. I even started experiencing health issues such as fibromyalgia, headaches, stomach aches, and not sleeping well at night. I started to see a marriage counselor, but my husband refused to go. So, as our marriage started to decline, he became more and more dependent on alcohol. He lost 2 or 3 jobs because of his drinking. His drink of choice was whiskey, and he was not a nice drunk. He never hurt me physically, but emotionally and psychologically I was a wreck, and I know that I projected that onto my daughter, who was 13 at the time. I finally took my daughter and I out of that situation. She was angry at me for a long time, but as she got older, she figured it out. If there's one thing that I learned from that experience is that no matter how much you love someone, you cannot make them change, no matter how hard you try. Someone who is an addict must want to make that change, and he wasn't.
That's a hard
So
thing to
there you
go through.
Yeah, it is.
I think a lot of us can relate to that.
Especially when you have a teenager who doesn't quite understand yet.
Right.
And you look like the bully, because any smart parent doesn't want to talk bad about your child's mother or father.
Right.
So it makes it hard to explain and have them understand.
Exactly.
I totally get it.
It really did.
Yeah.
Well, Dina, what got you into substance use prevention?
So I had 2 cousins, one on each side of my family, who had died of fentanyl overdoses within just a few months of each other. So that kind of caught my attention and made me very concerned. But I had been in the domestic violence area for quite a while and saw how domestic violence and drug abuse
How they go commingle?
Yeah, how they intertwine with each other. And so that wanted me to get into the prevention aspect of it and try to help people from this side of the fence.
Well, I'm sorry for your loss. That must be really hard.
It is. It was hard on my family. My cousins are gone, but they, left heartache all over.
Ashley, what got you here?
Yeah, I think I have a similar story, like as Dina and Tangela. Mine is also involves my family, but I have a personal testimony about that as well, but I won't get into that because I think it would take a really long time.
We'll save that for later.
Yeah, if you ever want to hear it. But for me, it was just, I grew up in a broken home. My dad was an alcoholic, and my mom, she was a single mom. She did the best she could, and my young childhood times were pretty secure and safe and steady, but once my mom got like divorced and became a single parent, I think the stress on her contributed to that being replaced with substances. So I know it started with her being in a car accident and being prescribed opiates, and so I moved out when I was 16 because it was so hard to watch. She would fade out on the couch, and I would be responsible for taking care of my younger siblings. And when you're 16, I think you know it all and can do it better. So I moved out when I was 16, and I didn't want to see that. I didn't want to watch my mom die. And there was a lot of our family members that tried to help her get help, but until she wanted it, it wasn't going to happen. And so I just, I didn't want that for my kids. So later on, when I had surgery and was prescribed medication for that, my body started developing a dependency on that. And so that's why Suboxone is such a great medication, because it really does save people's lives. So I really like to advocate for that. But I knew what I wanted as a kid, and I didn't get, and I didn't want that for my own kids. So it gave me the strength to not repeat that cycle of addiction. And I know that a lot of people, it's really hard, and they don't have that inner strength, but there's something about a mother's love for her kids that, I don't know, it just gave me the strength that I just didn't want that for myself, and I didn't want to walk down that road. And so I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for mobile assisted treatment, and it's such a needed thing, and it just helps save so many people's lives. And that story is kind of a really sad story of loss. There was 5 of us kids growing up. We all kind of got scattered and went separate ways. It really did break up my family. My dad still is an alcoholic to this day, but my mom, she did get help. She ended up going through some legal troubles, and that kind of forced her to kind of wake up and get sober. And she did. She got on Suboxone, and she's off of Suboxone now, but it saved her life. And so I'm a big advocate for that. But that's why I do what I do, and why I wanted to do this work, because though I've only been working in prevention for a year, I've been working in the mental health side of treatment and recovery for 4 years prior. So I've been kind of in this line of work for 5 years, but prevention specifically just about a year. So yeah, it's very near and dear to me. I definitely have a personal component to it.
I can definitely relate to that story. Yeah. I grew up in a single parent home. My mother had 3 of us in the household, and my mother suffered from mental health problems.
Yeah.
She was schizophrenic and bipolar. At least we assume the schizophrenic part, due to how she acted towards the end. But my entire family, we were cursed with generational substance use problems. It was normal in our house. It was advocated for in our house. It was given to us at young ages. And I have my own story as well with my lived experience, and we could talk about that in another podcast. But really, I wanted to raise my children exactly opposite of how I was raised. I wanted to keep some of our base traditions that we did, some of our holiday traditions that we did, but I felt like I grew up with an example of how not to parent. And so I wanted to do something different with that. And I've watched as our entire family broke up, scattered all across the United States. And I didn't want that for my children. I watched everybody else get sober. Thankfully, everybody in my family is sober at this point. But I really wanted to go out and help families to where they don't end up like we ended up as children.
Yeah, and I think being a kid and being in that situation, you know the loss. And my mom knew the loss, so it was weird because she knew the loss because my grandmother was an alcoholic for a lot of her life. She stopped, how old was I can't remember how she was when she stopped, but she was young. She was 30 when she stopped drinking, thank the Lord, and she didn't have any health issues later on in life because of that. That was because of smoking. She died later with throat cancer, but from smoking. But just to know that loss as a kid, and then to be a mother, it just, what it feels like, and you don't want to transmit that to your kids. So I think that there's strength in that, and not everybody's that lucky. And that's not to say that, you don't love your kid if you struggle with addiction. I'm just trying to say that I think that there's a strength in that can help you in your journey to sobriety and recovery. So, and it's just tapping into that and finding local, support. Support's a huge part of recovery. And then, there's the mental health side of it where, we talk a lot about that with, stress and different things, medical problems, different things that can lead to addiction. Local mental health authorities really help in that regard. They can teach you those coping skills and things like that. And not everybody's lucky to have access to that. So I think that that's hard as well.
Kendra, what got you here?
Yeah, so similar to pretty much everybody here, it was family. So I have an uncle, so one of my dad's oldest brothers, got into using substances at the age of 15, and he is now in his 60s, and he is still battling addiction. And so just seeing that and seeing my cousins grow up and follow in that same, like that cycle, having parents that are both addicted to substances, then they become addicted to substances, in and out of prison. Thankfully, his two of his sons have cleaned their life up. So two of my cousins have really turned their life around, and went a different path. But it took a while before they decided to do that. And sadly, one of my cousins committed suicide before he had the chance to. And so that's a big part of it. I've had a couple of really good friends that have had severe substance use issues and still to this day have them. And so that's kind of been a big drive for me as well. And a big reason I got into being a CASA volunteer as well, because I don't like seeing children having to go through that and live with parents that have substance use issues, and I feel like prevention is where it all starts. If we can stop things from even starting, our society would be a lot better. And so I feel like prevention is really a good spot for me, just to help kind of keep kids safe. And so I'm really passionate about it, and I'm really glad that I found the prevention field.
I'm glad you did too. I had a CASA volunteer that worked on our case when I was in foster care, and I absolutely loved her. She did a whole lot for me and a whole lot for my mother, and it really helped my mother. I wish it had lasted longer than it did, but that can happen. The road to recovery, it bends and winds, and there's different paths shooting off, but really the end goal is the same for everybody.
Yeah, it is.
And like Tangela and Ashley pointed out, they have to reach a point where they want the help.
Yeah.
Forcing them or, doing it because, to get out of jail, that's not going to solve their issues. They have to want to do it.
Well, I feel like our family has experienced that a lot. My dad and one of his other siblings have really tried to help my uncle a lot. Just, time and time again, they've reached out their hand and said, come on, let's get you help. Let's get you plugged into some recovery places. Let's get you involved in church. Let's, they gave him a place to stay and helped him get on his feet, and that addiction won every time. And he's just, it's really sad to see that, somebody that's been offered, options, but they're just not ready. They're not ready to give it up. And so, really
I had an uncle that was similar. He had been to rehab multiple times, and really he had spent one whole year at rehab, forced by the courts in order to do it. And when he came home, he was a changed person, or so we thought. He was definitely a better father and a better uncle and a better family member, a better man. And somewhere down that line, I don't know if it was because my brother took his life or it was because my mother took her life, but 3 weeks after my mother took her own life, he ended up drunk on a motorcycle and ended in a motorcycle crash and died.
Oh, that's awful.
So, those generational curses, they're hard to break.
Well, and brain pathways are just hard to rewire. You're in that pattern of addiction, and it's really hard. And people that are in recovery, I just give a big, salute to, because I just think that they're the strongest people ever to be able to overcome those things, live on the other side of that, and then help people in that way. Yes. I just think that's a beautiful thing.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think one of our Facebook Live guests said it best, Barry, when he said, you know, we're not bad people, we're just sick people trying to get better.
Even when nobody else believes, I'm not going down that easily. So don't give up.
Hey, Dina, would you tell me what you got going on in Grady County?
I would love to. So Grady County is where I was raised, and I love Grady County and all the people in it. And so that's part of why I got into prevention. So as I mentioned earlier, I am the coalition coordinator for Grady County, Kingfisher, Blaine, and Canadian. But I chair the Grady County Coalition. And we're a very small coalition right now. So we're looking to recruit more members. As Deshauna said earlier, we're looking for those stakeholders, those community champions, just regular citizens who are concerned about their community. So if you think you might be interested in helping the cause of, you know, helping people recover or getting into that or helping in any way possible, please feel free to contact me at, I think all of our websites, or all of our emails are on the website, swota.org.
Yep, it is.
Yeah, and but like Deshauna said, we do lots of outreaches. We attend certain events. For instance, in August, we have the world famous Watermelon Festival. It'll be the 85th year, so we'll be setting up there to pass out resources. And
What town is that in?
Rush Springs, Oklahoma.
That's a good one.
Yeah, and if you want some really good homemade tomatoes, that's the place to go. And and then August the 3rd, there is the Back to School Bash that our Michigan Street Church holds every year. And I believe last year they gave away 450 backpacks to school kids who were in need. Or maybe they didn't need it, but they gave them anyway.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so those are the perfect opportunities for us to reach out to the community, make sure people have resources and they know that help is available if they need it.
What is your priority substance in Grady County?
It is opioids.
Awesome.
So you have all the great harm reduction items, the Narcan, when available, the medication lock bags.
Yes, exactly. That's what we really like to do at our outreaches is pass out those harm reduction items. Like Deshauna said, the lock bags are really important, especially if you have little ones running around your home. And Narcan, we suggest everybody carry that because you never know when someone might be experiencing an overdose in the middle of Walmart or your local grocery store. It can happen anywhere. So, yeah.
Awesome.
When do y'all meet?
We meet on the 4th Wednesday of every month at the Chickasha Chamber of Commerce, 221 West Chickasha Avenue, at noon. So anybody who's around who wants to come and see what it's all about, come and join us.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Now we'll I'll hold on to you, no matter what this world will throw.
All right, so we wanted to share with you guys our upcoming schedule for Facebook Lives and podcasts, so you guys can kind of be on the lookout for those. So in August, we are going to be having a guest speaker join us that has a personal testimony of losing her brother to an overdose, and she's going to come and speak with us on our Facebook Live, and then it'll be part of our September podcast as well, but just sharing her story and just trying to connect people to some resources to help anybody that's struggling with an overdose. So International Overdose Awareness Day is on August 31st, and so that's kind of why we decided to do that for our August and September events.
And where can you find that information for those events?
So we will be posting anything related to Facebook Live, or our podcast will be posted on our SWOTA Facebook page. So you can go to Southwestern Oklahoma Development Authority on Facebook, and we will post flyers about those events. There'll be QR codes you can scan to take you directly to where those Facebook Lives are going to be. There's also going to be links to where you can go view all of our podcasts. So that's just a great place to go to view all of those resources.
And I don't know if everybody knows, but October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And as we've previously discussed, domestic violence and substance use go hand in hand. 80% of all domestic violence altercations are due or involve a substance such as alcohol, methamphetamine, opioids, the list goes on. So we want to make sure to highlight that. We will have a domestic violence advocate on hand on our Facebook Live event in October. So definitely go to SWOTA.org, SWODA.org, and click the Substance Use Prevention, Treatment, and Recovery tab to follow the links for all of that information coming up as well.
Okay, and November is National Suicide Awareness Month. And so we'll be giving some information about 988, which is it's National Suicide Hotline, or just National Crisis Line, 988. And then I have a friend, her name is Katie Galloway, and she is a doctor of psychology, and she works at an inpatient mental health facility, and so she'll be sharing some information for us. And then December, we are still looking for people to help us out with our Facebook Live. December is National Drunk and Drug Driving Prevention Month. So we are still looking for people. If you'd like to help us out, you can check out our website and contact us, or if you know someone that would be interested. So yeah.
Awesome. And like everybody said, for more information, you can always visit Southwestern Oklahoma Development Authority on our Facebook page, or you can go to www.swota.org. And then just remember, if you or someone you know needs help with mental health or substance use issues, please call or text 988.
I'll reach my hands out in the dark and wait for yours to enter like a wave.
The Don't Give Up on Me music and songwriting that has been used for the intro and outro segments of this podcast has been brought to you by singer and songwriter Andy Grammer, and written in collaboration with Brian Inscore, Jake Torrey, and Sam Farrar with S-Curve record label.
This program is funded by the Oklahoma Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, the Center for Substance Abuse Prevention, the Southwestern Oklahoma Development Authority, and local coalitions. Thanks for joining our podcast today, and we hope to see you next time.
I will fight for you. I always do until my heart is black and blue.